Happy 2020, RIT alumni. We are glad to welcome you all to the newly rebranded Tiger webinars. Our series continue to be an exclusive benefit for RIT alumni and an important part of keeping you moving forward in your professional and personal development. And we're launching today under a new name. I'm Heidi Baumer, Director of Donor Relations and Stewardship in RIT's Division of Development and Alumni Relations, and I'm your moderator for today's webinar. Before we begin, let's take a moment to ensure that everyone is ready and familiar with the presentation tools. All participants in today's webinar have joined in mute mode and cannot be heard during the presentation. However, we absolutely encourage participation. To submit your questions at any time, please enter them in the chat box. The chat box can be opened by clicking on the chat icon at the right of your Livestorm window. We will make every effort to address all of your comments and questions throughout the webinar. You are joining today's webinar using broadcast audio. If for any reason you wish to dial in by phone, dial-in information is provided in the chat box. Live captioning is also being provided during this webinar, and you can find the link to access that in the chat box as well. Note that today's webinar will be recorded and made available, complete with captions, in approximately 1 week following today's event. All participants will receive an email with the link to the recording. If you have any technical questions, please feel free to type those into the chat box as well, and we will do our best to get you the appropriate answers. And with that, let's get started. Today's webinar is titled Incremental Quick Process Improvement. Our returning guest presenter is Margie Oakes, Director of Marketing and Business Development in the John D. Romey Center for Quality and Applied Statistics here at RIT. Margie is a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt and holds a BA degree from Georgetown University and an MBA from the University of Rochester. She teaches Lean Six Sigma courses and assists students to apply and implement their studies through consultation, assessments, and workshops to deepen their own knowledge and experience. Margie trained as a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt at Xerox, where she led over 60 projects in the areas of marketing, product development, strategic planning, customer service, and manufacturing, totaling over $350 million in revenue generation and cost savings. She has carried her LSS expertise into a variety of positions, including a worldwide vice president, office products launch, consumables marketing and strategy, and competitive consumables market development. She served as a Lean Six Sigma loaned executive, consulting with over 80 Xerox customers on LSS implementation in their organizations. Margie, we're so happy to have you here with us today, and our audience is now all yours.
Thank you so much, Heidi. And I join you in wishing everyone a happy 2020. Wow, we've made it 20 years into the new decade, and I should say into the new century. And it's interesting because in our prior Lean Six Sigma conversations, many of the same questions keep popping up year after year, month after month. So I'm so happy that you've been willing to join us and spend a little time in your lunch hour today talking about Lean Six Sigma and how we can simplify the approach to process excellence. So with that, I always appreciate your comments, your questions, and any insights that you have from these webinars. And here's what I've heard through the grapevine. Many of you really just want to know, why does process excellence take just so long? Why do we have to keep doing this over and over and over again? And it is just hard to get people to change. If there's one big problem that you talk about, it is change management and motivating people to accept the changes that will make the processes better. And then there was one very interesting question that came to me from one of you asking, shouldn't we just leave processes alone if they're working? So we're going to talk about all of these questions today by doing something a little bit different for this hour. We're going to be taking off the shelf, just briefly, all of the different tools that you can use, some that get you improved processes faster, and some that take a little more time and a little more depth. But for all of these processes, our John D. Romey Center can help you and can ensure that we guide you along the way if you need support to work your processes. So with that, our objectives for the next hour will be to talk about some simple tools to talk about how to integrate performance excellence into your daily habits and when to pull which tool off the shelf. So depending on the challenge that you're seeing with your process, you might find that you need to use a different tool to be the most effective. Now, some organizations come to the Romy Center because they want to begin the journey of performance excellence, and they want to ensure that they're fully educated on all of the tools and techniques. Some organizations want to start out more slowly. They want to start off simply, and then they will amass more tools as they need them. And some come to us and they have a goal. They want to find a certain number of dollars of cost savings, or they want to improve their customer satisfaction, or they have a goal for a specific process. And we try to help them choose the best tools that will be the most effective for their specific challenge. So we've never met a challenge at CQAS that we couldn't manage to help our alumni answer. So we hope this will be of benefit today. So we're going to be just doing a brief kind of curated survey, if you will, of the various approaches from Plan, Do, Check, Act to Kaizen to our friend in DMAIC and DemandV. And then another word about value stream mapping, because we have gotten some questions about when do we use value stream mapping versus when do we just dive in and use the other tools. So as always, we'll welcome your questions, your stories, and your comments along the way. So definitely keep them coming. So the first place to start is to ask yourself, what are you hearing from your organization? Are people feeling that things are generally working as they should? Or, and I've collected these from you, are you hearing phrases like, well, there's just got to be a better way to do this? Or, if people would just do what I say, the world would be a lot better. To, wow, we are out of control. And sometimes your vendors may say things like, I don't even know why you make me do this, but you're a hard company to do business with. That can be an indication. And one of you wrote us a very long email about having heard that from one of your customers and what should you do about it. And then finally, you'll hear employees in the hallway saying, this is just crazy. They don't value my time. They don't want to know what I think. They just tell me to keep doing things the same way I've always done it before. So if you're hearing those things and more, it might be time to say, we need to look at our processes and see which ones we want to tackle, which ones we want to improve, but always look at what impact is this going to have on our customers and what revenue, profit, or even cost reduction will this accomplish if we take this on. We don't want to take on a project and then find out that it didn't make any difference to the bottom line. So moving along, the question is always, all right, but Margie, where do we start? Well, we've got a whole team of professionals, our instructors led by Vin Bonomo, people from all the way from black belts to master black belts and everything in between, who have with them over 100 years of process experience in helping organizations to improve and achieve process excellence. So we generally start with a conversation and we say, all right, do you have a goal in mind? Maybe you want to reach a certain cost target. Maybe you want to grow your revenue and your processes are enabling you to do that. You might think of some of your sales processes or some of your marketing processes, an area that's near and dear to my heart. Or you might be looking at your manufacturing processes or your customer-facing processes. If you're in medicine, you might be looking at processes that you are using as you are administering patient care. So the first place we like to start is to talk to you and understand what is your strategy, what is your challenge, and what is your culture like? Are people consciously competent, or are they moving to a point where they don't even have to think of it anymore? They're very unconsciously knowledgeable, which is a great thing. They don't even have to think about it, but They need to know where to apply which tools when. So we can help in all of those areas. Now, we always advise, let's keep everybody's performance objectives in mind, and let's look at financial and customer goal attainment. If you come and you say, well, we want to find $100,000 worth of cost savings this year, and it's already April, well, it's a little bit hard to find that much savings on an annualized basis, but we'll do our best to work with you. Perhaps you feel it's time to appoint a quality leader, or you might say, no, we just want to make this everyone's responsibility. The point of the matter is that performance excellence is a bit like exercising our bodies and our minds. Organizations use performance excellence as their form of exercise, and it's a way that we have to live every day and every minute of the day. So you can appoint a quality leader, or you could start off by trying a simple plan, do, check, act, and we'll talk about that in a moment, in getting everyone involved in something. Now, as I always say, if you're talking to someone, and as we've worked with organizations, we do encounter these people. If someone just says, I don't want to be involved, I don't want to change, I like what I'm doing, and I'm not going to modify the way I do it, move on, because we've got some tools that can help you. But at the end of the day, we can only change ourselves. So get the people who want to change their processes for the best and fail fast. Try things. If they don't work, try something else. And we're always here to help you and guide you on the way. Now, I did get a question on what things can go wrong in performance excellence. And you may have some things that you want to put up on the chat board of experiences that you've had. Well, probably the top of the list is leadership commitment, because we always do what our leaders are pointing us toward. And we're constantly looking to see, are our leaders walking the talk? So leadership commitment is very important. I know that you know this from our prior webinars. Certainly training and follow through, and not viewing process improvement just as a program, but really as a cultural value. But one thing that we stress very hard is that you should look at your annual budget and say, how much of our annual budget can we deliver through process improvement? If we take the waste out, if we get rid of the things that are impeding us from saving money or finding more customers or whatever the case may be, let's set a target around that, and let's drive ourselves very hard to achieve that target in our budget. Now, some organizations, they put together a set of PowerPoint slides, they capture some low-hanging fruit, and they feel like, okay, we've done this. And then they find out that they're not continuing through with this. And like every good exercise plan that is our New Year's resolution, we come into February or March or April, and we haven't done anything. Sometimes organizations will say, well, we don't need you. We can go do this ourselves. And that's great. Please do that. But sometimes, like, you have to join a gym. Sometimes you need some help along the way, and RIT is here to help you. And lastly, we do find companies when it might be August or September, and they did have a goal in mind in their annual budget for savings they were going to find that would improve their bottom line, and now they're into panic. They've only got another quarter to go, and there's no way they can achieve their business results. Well, again, RIT stands by to help you when you find yourself in that panic situation. But most importantly, performance improvement isn't about invisibility. It is about constantly talking up what you are doing to improve your processes and the measurable hardline, bottom line savings that you are generating by virtue of undertaking performance improvement. So let's talk about our old friend, Tim Wood VP. Does anybody remember what Tim Wood VP stands for? Well, I'll give you the answer on the next slide, but let's just say that Tim Wood is always around, always creeping in slowly. And a recent study by the Boston Consulting Group said that about 38 to 42% of expenses in North American companies are candidates for waste assessment. So that's a pretty big number that's affecting us all. I didn't feature the European numbers just simply because we're mostly a North American crowd, but they're roughly equivalent to what we find in North America, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So we find that this is a constant creep in our organizations, whether we're for-profit or not for-profit. Over time, the ripple effect of waste, because waste begets more waste, it becomes exponential in the organization. And it doesn't just erode our profit, our expenses, or maybe even our revenue line, but it impacts morale in the company, and it certainly impacts customer satisfaction, like the alum who wrote in and said, but my clients are saying we're very hard to do business with. Not something you obviously want to be known for. One other sign that you might be seeing is that you're seeing a growth in your headcount. You're hiring more people, you're bringing on more talent, but you're not seeing your productivity metrics reflected in a growth curve. And we can talk to you about how you would measure productivity. I'm going to stay at a fairly high level for this conversation, but we can do that in future events if you'd like us to come back and talk about that. So if you're seeing any of these signs, you are watching waste creeping in slowly but constantly into your organization. So you want to get rid of Tim Wood VP. And here are the 9 forms of waste that RIT talks about. Other organizations may have a few less, and they might incorporate some of the waste into some of the other categories. But one of you told me that this is your checklist that you keep on your wall, that you're constantly looking at these forms of waste and trying to come up with ways that you can see that you've seen that waste happen. And that might be a good way to do it. Always keep the forms of waste in mind. But let's also not forget the data has to be your guide. And for the companies and the not-for-profits that we work with, you will always hear us talking about collecting data and not opinions. It's nice to know that the average is X or your target is Y, but let's face facts. You set that target of, let's say, $80,000 in cost savings. Who knows what that target should really be? Maybe 80,000 is a good starting point. Maybe 120,000 is a better number because you've got that capability. So let's stay away from opinions and let's strive for actual results and understand who, what, where, when, why are we getting the results that we're getting by using simple tools like scattergrams. And you've heard me talk about Paretos and how to ask questions and not just take the answers that you get, but to probe those answers to make sure that it is truly understood. We recently worked with a hospital in the upstate area, and they were looking at intake of patients, but they were only looking at it between certain hours. When we broadened the number of hours that they looked at, they were astounded by the change in the information. So always start with letting data be the guide to what you need to improve. Of course, we're always going to talk about getting to the root of the problem, because too many times we go to help organizations and they're not looking at the root cause. They're solving the same problem over and over and over again because they're just looking at the symptoms. So if you're only looking at symptoms, the problem's going to come back. And so you need to use your root cause analysis tools such as your 5Y and your fishbones to help you. Now, we are part of the statistics department at RIT, so I would be remiss if we didn't mention the great statistical tools we have to help. But I would also tell you, if you come to our yellow belt or our green belt or our black belt, you're not just paying for that class, you are paying for our instructors who are very knowledgeable in this area to help you with whatever tools might set you on the path of finding the root cause of a problem and getting it solved. So we're there to provide you with the lifelines to help you get to the root cause of the problems. And I know Vin and his team are standing by to do that. Now, we did talk about the tool of value stream mapping. I was very fortunate to work with an organization here in Rochester in December, and we did a whole set of workshops over 3 days on value stream mapping. And they have kindly invited me to come back in just a few days to talk about how they are moving forward on the areas of waste that they've found and how they have identified their projects and what they are doing to resolve those projects. And we're measuring them in very, very clear, actionable, measurable targets that will impact their bottom line. So we do recommend that you start off by looking at where is waste occurring. And if you want us to do a deeper dive on value stream mapping, we're always willing to do that. We did that last year, and many of you said you've started using that tool and you found it to be effective, but we're always standing by. Just call or email or text and say, I've got a question. Would you look at this value stream map and tell us if we're doing it right? And we're always willing to stand by. So let's start off with the tools that we talked about. So you might come to us and say, Margie, we just want a simple start. Our checks are taking too long to get approved. We need too many signatures. Or we want to improve the process to authorize insurance coverage. And right now, we looked at our value stream map, or maybe we didn't, and it's taking us 21 days to get someone covered for insurance. Or maybe you just look at the way that work is flowing through your office and you're saying, we don't have a very good flow to our work. It seems like things are sitting in inboxes and getting lost, and they're just not getting through our process very effectively. Well, all of these are examples of where a plan, do, check, act might work very well. The process is a bit sluggish. It's not that complicated, but people are unhappy, whether they're your customers or they're your own employees. You can make some incremental improvements, and those incremental improvements don't have to be huge, but they can make a significant difference over time. I worked with a client last month who simply needed to move where they have a printer, and it made a difference, believe it or not. Or you say, you know what, we have got a particular kind of waste, and we need to get rid of that waste once and for all. Wonderful. We'll do a plan, do, check, act. For those of you who might be more in the medical or might be more in the accounting field, you may know this as a plan, do, study, act. It's the same thing. First of all, you want to just simply identify what is the problem? What is it that you're seeing, and how do you measure that problem? And then once you know what the current state is like and you can define the problem, then you assemble your team. And yes, in answer to your questions, we always do recommend a team, because if you can just get it done yourself, just go do it. But when it involves multiple people and you want the change to stick, put a team together and understand what's the objective and how will you put this effort in place and what data will you collect. Once you've got your plan, then go ahead and do it. Plan how you're going to test whatever is the potential idea that you have to solve the problem. And yes, we're going pretty fast through this, but again, for those of you who have called up and you need help with plan, do, check, acts, we're always helpful to give you additional tools, white papers, and ideas to help you get started on a simple plan, do, check, act. But we're doing a plan, do, check, act, and we think there's only 2 or 3 different things we might do, but we're not sure what's the right thing to do. Well, let's test them, see what happens, measure them, see what we observe, and then let's go to the check or study phase. Look at the data that we collected, see what the data showed us, graph that data, use a picture, and then either we see an improvement, most of the time we do, and we'll go ahead and we'll make modifications, but we'll talk to our family group, our organization, and talk to them about the change we need to make. But if the test did not show the improvement, then we're going to want to go back and maybe go back as far as the do phase or even the plan phase and ask ourselves if we're at the root cause of the problem. If we find that we did solve the problem, then great. We're going to be in the act phase. We're going to be talking about implementing. So it is not uncommon to walk into organizations and they will have double or triple digit plan, do, check, act projects going on at a time. They might last a couple of weeks. They might last a month or two, but they're simple, they're easy, they're straightforward. Identify the problem, collect the data, analyze it, look at the solution, and then see how you can implement that solution to improve the process. Okay, so some of you are coming to us and you're talking about wanting to do Kaizens. And the word Kaizen is probably one of the most overused and maybe would I say incorrectly used continuous improvement events that we have. It is a great tool, and we have a whole class designed to help you launch a Kaizen. And remember, with all of our classes or anywhere you might be taking classes, you should go to those classes and you should come out with very clear direction on how you are going to implement what you've learned in class. So you are not just learning how to dive, how to do scuba diving. You should have done scuba diving on your process when you're in class. So a Kaizen is characterized by getting people together for several days to a week. Some of you have asked me, well, can't we do a Kaizen for an hour or two for the next 6 weeks? Well, the problem is that that sets up people to fall away from the activity, to lose their interest in it. So we suggest that if you've maybe done a plan, do, check, act, or you've got a solution to simplify a process and you want to get that implemented and working in your organization to achieve that cost reduction target or that incremental revenue, that you go into a Kaizen where you're dedicating people's time for 3 to 5 days. And then you'll say, oh, but we can't take that time away from the business. And my question to you is, so I guess you have the time to do it wrong or to do it without the productivity that the solution could give you? Of course not. So maybe you can make that investment of time and you're through the analysis phase. You are talking about what it's going to take to implement the solution that you have already put in place through perhaps the plan, do, check, act. In that case, then, we'll go back and perhaps look at the value stream. It's pretty simple to do. And then we'll make sure that the solution is measurable, that we can see the bottom line result. And then voila, we'll follow these steps over the next several days. And we'll get it done. Everybody works together. Everybody's a part of the solution, and it happens. Everybody is there, and the solution is implemented. So if you have a plan, do, check, act, and it has resulted in a solution, but you just need some time to get it implemented, Kaizen is your most direct route to making it happen or getting it implemented. Sometimes people will call plan, do, check, acts a Kaizen, but then they will forget the need to donate the time out of your day in order to make this happen on a very, very concentrated basis. So you're with me so far? Any questions that are coming to mind? Don't forget to put them in the chat box, and we're more than happy to talk about them. So in a Kaizen, we're taking something apart, we're making it new, and we're thinking about it so it will help others. So a Kaizen is a very, very valuable tool if you have a solution in mind and you want to dedicate the time to getting it done. So you're not coming into September and October calling us or your local quality consultant in a panic and saying, we signed up to do a cost reduction of, let's say, $80,000, and we don't have enough time to get it done this year. Uh-oh, we can't do enough Kaizens to make that happen. So let's get started early. Now, I'm going to pull out 2 tools that we've talked about in the past. And if you come to our yellow belt class, or you come to our green belt class, or our black belt class, you are going to hear phrases like DMAIC and even DMADV. Let's say you have got a big process that spans across your organization. It could be that perhaps the way that your manufacturing process is working is yielding a high degree of variability. It could be that you are a printing organization using various substrates, trying to put together customer requirements, trying to put together getting the right material matched to the job, and you're finding that it's taking quite a bit of time. Perhaps you are an organization that does a great deal of custom work, and you have a process that's working, but it could be working more effectively, because given that you're in a custom organization, every time you do this, you kind of start new. Maybe you're in an accounting organization and it's tax season and you want to figure out a way to make the process of getting income tax data in, getting it processed, getting it checked, and getting it back to the client more quickly. Any of these things could be reasons why you might want to look at a DMAIC, because you don't have the solution. You don't know what to do. You just wring your hands because you know that this is big. It probably spans several departments or organizations, and a major overhaul is needed. There might be a lot of opinions about why the problem exists. Everybody has a suspect, but not everybody knows what to do. So here's where our yellow belt class, or perhaps our green belt or black belt class, could help you, but we're going to make sure that you get to the root cause. So the first thing that you do, as we've talked about before, is that you really define the problem statement. How do you know what the problem is? What is the evidence in the organization that this problem exists? And alongside of that data that you're using to measure, what is it that is telling you that the organization could benefit by? So defining the problem doesn't say we know the solution. It says we know that this is a problem because of the following measurements. And we'd like to see, although we're not certain, but we'd like to see if we could move from our current state to a desired state that would be measured in the following way. So you will go through define, and then you will come through define into measure. Measure is just taking a picture of the current state. What is telling you that there's really a problem? How do you know it's a problem? And what hard measurements do you have? Then you'll go into analyze, and you'll try to get to the root causes. And you'll use tools like Fishbones and 5 Whys and some of the things we talked about earlier. And then you will bring your entire team together. You've been working this over weeks and perhaps months, and you will start to generate some solutions that might work. You're going to have to test some of those solutions. You're going to have to try them out. Some aren't going to work. You're going to try other solutions, but you're doing it in a very structured way. That's where a green belt or a black belt can really help you, because we've got a whole set of tools in our arsenal that can enable you to improve your process. And then finally, you'll go through control. Control is like letting you loose after you've gone on your big post-holiday diet. Can you really sustain the gain, or in that case, the loss? Can you really still get the results that your improvement was supposed to generate? Did people not get trained effectively? Are they just not following the new process? Are they falling away? What are they doing that might be getting in the way of delivering the sustained results that you need for performance excellence? And so we see many organizations that are using Plan, Do, Check, Act for simple process solutions. They might be going into a Kaizen when they haven't been able to fully implement the solution and they want to dedicate the time and get it done. Or the problem might be more complex and they are using DMAIC tools and the DMAIC process in order to solve a very complex problem. So that takes us through DMAIC. And then you'll also know that there's a process that we don't use nearly as often, but sometimes, and we have a client that we've been working with who wants to implement a new process. It involves some new technology. It involves a new way of dealing with their customer base. And it involves a different way of looking at how they can convert order to cash. And so they come to us and said, we want to scrap our entire process and we want to start new. Now, we haven't gotten to our point of success without our current processes getting us there. So we always want to build on the processes that have made us successful. But if there is a need for a brand new process, we can scrutinize that carefully. And if so, then we want to make sure that we start to put the process together without waste. Why should we design the process with waste already in it? So we will be talking about how we put the process together without waste. And many times the need for a brand new process comes about because of a budgetary target. We can't get where we need to be unless we start from scratch. So again, we will always build on what works out of the process that we've been using. We'll always look for lessons learned. We'll see what our processes in the past have taught us and what's worked well. And then we might do some benchmarking. We would look at other organizations that do things similar to us. We would look at other companies or other organizations that may not be producing the same product or service, but they have a process. They still have to bill their customers, or they still have to deal with purchase orders, or they still have to collect requirements. And so we might look at their processes and see what benchmarking could tell us. Then we want to make sure that we've got cross-functional involvement, because we don't want to make the team so small that people don't feel a sense of ownership and pride in the change, and they're reluctant to take on that new process. So in the DMAIC process, in the DemandV process, we start out by defining the problem as you're used to. We measure, we analyze, and then instead of improving and making changes to the process, we will design the process. You might have heard this called IDOVE in the alphabet soup we use for Lean Six Sigma, or you might find that you need to start from scratch with value stream mapping, whatever the case may be. And then from there, you will verify by doing dry runs or tests or whatever the case may be. So you will be verifying before you implement that this new improved process is the process that you're going to implement. However, we strongly encourage you not to start from scratch unless you absolutely need to. And sometimes within your DMAIC or even your DemandV process, you will take a short little break and you'll do a Plan, Do, Check, Act inside of your process, because this is something you don't have to wait for to get to the very end. So you'll go off and you'll do a simple Plan, Do, Study, Act, or a Plan, Do, Check, Act. And we have many organizations where we stop them and say, let's go ahead, let's get this small incremental change implemented, and then let's continue with the larger process. And how do we redefine that? How do we change it and improve it? Or if need be, in a rare case, how do we start from scratch? So the Plan, Do, Check, Act means that you can take a break even while you're using another change process and make sure that you're getting those things that are quick to do implemented. And then our instructors and our guides will help you with how to stop and how to quickly restart again. So you deliver a process that helps you with the whole DMAIC or DMADV process, and make sure that you get to the goal that your problem statement set out at the very beginning. Now, you may want to stop and do a Kaizen. I've done many DMAIC projects and even a couple DMADVs where we stopped in the middle, did some Kaizens, took a few days out, dedicated the organization, got going to implement something, and then kept moving with our DMAIC process. That is not unheard of. What we want the organization to do is to use the best tools that will get you to the best solution as quickly as possible. So cross-functional involvement is essential, change management is essential, and having those goals that say, we're going to use a variety of tools, and we want you to come in because we're going to do the heavy lifting, but we want you to be our guides. We want you to be our motivation. We want you to keep us on the straight and narrow so we can get rid of the waste in our organization. These are all of the tools that we can use. Now, some organizations want to get to change very, very rapidly. And so they will talk about trying to do something with the Plan, Do, Check, Act. That's a case where you want to call us, because if we don't think that a Plan, Do, Check, Act can do the job for you, talk to us and we'll tell you why we think you need to look at a DMAIC or why a Kaizen might fit better. We're not just trying to sell you training, although training is very important. We want our RIT grads to understand that there's a variety of tools. And in terms of your lifelong learning, there are going to be a lot of tools that you're going to use that fit one way or the other. And we want to make sure that you're fully exposing yourself. And I'm sorry, thank you. My PC just died. We want to make sure that you're fully exposing yourself and your organization to the best tools that will get you the solutions the fastest. So again, any other questions or comments or stories you want to share with us, we would love to hear. But what I would say to you is that if I were to summarize the takeaway lessons from this, remember that performance improvement is not a diet. It's a way of life, and it is a part of your culture. When you are asking your people to go into a day of quality or to go into a Kaizen event or even to make time for DMAIC, it's not because it's an interruption to what they normally do. This is an investment in getting them to do things even better, more simply, more easily, in a more direct and straightforward manner. Recognize that there's going to be a culture change that's required. No one can change unless they want to do it themselves. I can't force you to change. So that's why we need RIT leaders to lead the charge on performance excellence. Don't forget that flowing your processes and keeping in mind standard operating procedures are very, very important. As one client just said to us, when we go into the operating room, we have a very tight standard operating procedure. We wouldn't think of beginning a procedure on a customer without consulting our standard operating checklist. Well, in a sense, why would you do that with any other key process in your business? So we encourage you, I know it's not the most fun, but throw a pizza party and keep your process documentation and your value stream maps current. Now, invariably, I will get asked, but what if I just know something needs to happen? Well, then just do it. We're not telling you that you always have to use one of the tools we talked about. If you know that there's something that could improve the process, just make it happen. But understand that if you do need incremental process change, then Plan, Do, Check, Act is probably your best friend to make small incremental process changes. And we can talk about examples and even more examples where those Plan, Do, Check, Act little projects will give you an impetus to stay on your performance improvement culture. If you know what needs to be done, don't forget Kaizen. We have a whole class on it. There's a lot of material out there on Kaizens, and Kaizens make sure that you're taking the time to get something implemented. Again, it's not an interruption to your job. It is a way to help you get your job done better. If you want to change a process, particularly if it's a large process, it's worth a lot of money, it is central and core to the organization, it might cross many departments or even divisions, then a DMAIC process might be your best answer. If you are truly needing to implement a DMADV process, we're going to push back on you hard. But if DMAIC isn't the answer and you need a brand new process, we want to make sure that you don't implement a new process with waste already embedded into it. And I don't want to call anyone out because I think they might be on this call, but we have a customer, a client of ours, who is located in, let's just say, the greater upstate area, and they wanted to implement a new process, but they put in all of these requirements to do it in the same old way just to have a safety net. And 9 months later, in conversation with them, they're trying to figure out how do they get rid of the safety nets and make the process more efficient, because everybody wants to stick with the safety nets and it's getting in the way of the productivity that they had targeted to get from the process. They're not getting the financial results they expected. So we're going to be vigilant with you and say, don't design waste into a new process, but more than that, try to build on the processes that you have. And lastly, change is happening all the time. We don't see it. We don't notice it until a few hours or a few days or a few months or even a year has gone by. So change can happen to us, or change can happen because we drive it. Isn't it better to discuss in your strategy planning what processes are wasting most of your money in terms of expenses, costs, and even getting in the way of serving your customers most efficiently? Isn't it better to plan your process improvement through strategy and planning, and then to keep a list and devote yourself to a day of quality or to some sort of cadence or process that you're going to use, and we can help you with that and make those changes happen? Because if you plan them from your strategy top down, then you're going to set the framework for quality being a major part of your culture and what makes your organization great. So I know many of you have been writing in with questions about Plan, Do, Check, Act, and we'll make sure that you get the presentation. I know that some of you say, well, how do I learn more about Plan, Do, Check, Act? What do you offer? Of course, in our Yellow Belt program, as well as our Green and Black Belt program, we do mention Plan, Do, Check, Act, but we're always willing to go out and do workshops. We have a very talented team of instructors, and whether you choose to use RIT or someone else, recognize that these are tools that are very simple to implement and will help you, or whomever you choose to, if you want, will come in and will get you started on Plan, Do, Check, Acts and work your way forward to the point where you feel very comfortable with DMAIC tools or a DMAIC process. Sometimes we are asked, well, why do we need RIT to come in and do it externally? And the answer is, maybe you don't. But just like as I said in the beginning, you go to a gym because you know that if you hire the best consultants and you have people coaching you, standing by, encouraging you, knowing the tools to use, being your shorthand, if you do that, you can assure that you get the results. And I'll give you my closing statement to our customers, which is always, this is not about the expense of process improvement. Process improvement will pay for itself many times exponentially. So the cash flow that you're spending will more than be recovered in the process improvements that you'll be making through Plan, Do, Check, Acts, all the way through to DMAIC. So as always, I really welcome your questions, your comments. We get the rest of the team involved. If you're thinking about this 2 weeks from now and you say, hey, we'd like to talk to you about this a little bit further, we're always available to you. That's the great benefit of having gone to a university that offers this type of program. And it really is another way that RIT is with you for life. So thank you very much for your time. And again, happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Margie, for this real-world study and process improvements. We'd like to encourage anyone who has questions to please feel free to write them in. I guess in thinking about this presentation and on my own, I do have a question for you.
Sure.
So whenever you're about to embark on a process of change or improvement, I think that from my experience, many times one of the things we've had to deal with is managing expectations. I think that there are really high expectations for what's going to come out of this improvement and change. And that to me relates to trying to set reasonable goals that will help you stay on track, but also help you feel like you are achieving some of your goals and can continue on down this path. Do you have any advice for how to set reasonable goals?
Definitely. So what we often do is go in and we talk to organizations about whether they have a particular goal or target they want to reach. Do you want to find X number of dollars in expense savings, cost savings, reduction in time, whatever? And then we'll help you look at your processes to see if those goals are obtainable. If you come to us and say, I want to lose 10 pounds in a day, just like your trainer would, we're going to say, that's not totally realistic, even if you starve for the next 24 hours. But we will work with you on what process capabilities you have and how we can make those goals realistic and actionable. And we'll be very honest with you if we don't think that your processes can yield those improvements. We like to work with you on your strategy because that's where we can identify where are the processes that are using up the most cost, dollars, and waste, and then we'll help you put a process in place. And some of my friends down in, let me just say, the southern part of our listening area have had that experience where we put together a whole process to move from strategy to project to managing those processes and managing change. If you just simply have a question about what's a realistic goal and where do we get started, we're happy to just talk with you by phone, by quick meeting, whatever, and talk to you about what would be realistic and what could get started. So great question, Heidi.
So we're almost out of time. I guess I would encourage everyone who has participated in this webinar to obviously reach out if you have any additional questions. You can email your questions as you sit there and think about the webinar today and how some of the information you've learned impacts you directly and what you do. Feel free to email your questions to ritalum@rit.edu, and we will direct your questions to Margie and her team, and they'll be happy to get back to you. Note that all the participants on this call will receive an email follow-up from us. And as we've mentioned in the chat box, we'll be sure to follow up with documents that have been requested, along with the link to today's webinar recording. So I'd like to thank Margie again for sharing your knowledge with us. I know I learned a lot, and I hope all of you did as well. We'd also like to take this time to say a special thank you to all of our Tiger alumni for your gifts to RIT. You're helping today's students achieve their dreams and also helping to raise RIT's national reputation. Especially, we'd like to extend a special thank you to the many alumni who supported the Tiger 20 for 20 scholarship campaign recently. You really helped us start 2020 off right. And if you have not yet made your gift to the annual fund for RIT, you can visit rit.edu, make a gift, and select an area of the university that matters to you personally. And please join us Thursday, January 30th for our next Tiger webinar, which is entitled Building National Awareness, Shaping Perceptions, an RIT Case Study in Marketing. We will hear from RIT's Chief Marketing Officer and his leadership team on how alumni are benefiting from RIT's rising national brand and what's gone into developing this brand. Thank you again for joining us today. Please exit this webinar by simply closing your live storm window, and please do let us know what you thought of the webinar through a brief survey that you will receive via email. Have a great day.